Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Resume Storyteller podcast. I'm your host, Virginia Franco, and today I thought I would share my 2 cents on LinkedIn because what I've come across is that when people considering working with me, they tend to ask a lot of the same questions about LinkedIn. Do I really need it? What should I put on it? Why? All of that. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to give my thoughts on the topic. And if you have any questions after listening to this, feel free to email me. My email is vafrancoresumes@gmail.com. So, the first question I usually get from people is, do I really need a LinkedIn page? Most people at this point that I come across at least do have LinkedIn, but it's either incomplete or they're just not doing a whole lot with it. So the bottom line is today, with the exception of very, very few industries, and honestly, the only industry that I can really think of where you maybe wouldn't need a LinkedIn might be like the yoga industry or elementary school teaching. There, a resume might suffice, but maybe you might want to be active on other social media. But for everything else, you absolutely need LinkedIn. Why? Well, just so you know, there are 500 million users on LinkedIn from over 200 countries. So this is a place for people to go to present themselves professionally. Secondly, LinkedIn has created a talent search platform that has been purchased by Fortune 500 companies, large-scale boutique recruiters. You name it, they've bought it. And it is a platform to conduct searches, and they actually see our profiles a little differently than the way you and I see it when we are on the site. Lastly, and to me this is really most important, a couple of recent studies that I have seen, a couple from the last few months, show that over half of all decision makers vet candidates online, and they use LinkedIn primarily. So if you are what I call a shadow person with a very limited presence, it hurts you because people are going on there to find out who you are, what do you know, and what do you have to show for it. It's sort of, I call it looking for social proof. But the good thing is that LinkedIn, it's a tool for people to find you, but it's actually a great tool for you. You can use it to network, connect with old colleagues, reach out to new people, really expand your reach. But then also it is a great, great tool for sleuthing. There is nothing better for professional detective work in my mind than LinkedIn. You can find out who works at target companies, names of recruiters you might want to connect with, people that are in the role to which you aspire, people that you can reach out to get advice. With that in mind, a lot of people often ask me, is it worth it to buy the premium LinkedIn or should I just stick with the free version? And my answer is it depends. If you are engaged in a semi-active or certainly an active job search, then I say yes, go ahead and pay for it. Even though you'll save a little bit of money by doing the yearly, at least start out with the month-to-month because then you can cancel it. I think you can cancel it anytime. But what it gives you when you pay for the service is, number one, you get advanced analytics, so you can see who's checking you out and get details about them. Secondly, you do have advanced search functionality. And then lastly, you get more in-mails. And in-mail is the way that you can reach out to people on LinkedIn, which is great when you don't have their email. If you are doing a very passive search and you aren't really that interested in looking for a job and you don't really care about who's checking you out, then the free version will probably work for you. So the next question I get is, what should I put on LinkedIn? And there are a couple of key LinkedIn sections. I always strive to make the profile as complete as possible because the more information you have filled out across the various sections that are available to you, the higher you will rank in searches. LinkedIn seems to give more credit to people that have a more complete profile. But whether or not, you are desperate to find a new job or you just want to keep your options open, there are a couple of areas where completing the sections will absolutely increase your odds of finding others and getting found. So the first one is a great headshot. I definitely don't recommend you be a complete shadow person, which is what I call someone who has chosen not to put a picture on there. If you're concerned about, if you have privacy concerns, you don't want everyone seeing your picture, that's fine. And you can adjust your privacy settings so that only your first connections to your picture. But what happens when you don't put a picture is it raises more alarms than not. So in terms of a headshot, professionally taken is great, but if your budget just doesn't allow for it, try to stand in front of a solid background and then use your photo editing software available on, most smartphones. And that will do the trick until you can sit for a professional picture. Try to make sure that it, sort of chest up versus a full body shot, because LinkedIn has actually made they've made the picture a little bit bigger. So having your full face and a little bit more is considered ideal. The second section that is important to fill out, and it's a great opportunity to help to increase your rankings, is the headline section. So the headline section is an opportunity to include as many keywords as possible. And when I think of keywords, I think of the kinds of words that people, decision makers, recruiters would use to search for someone like you. Think about the titles that you're targeting, and whatever those are, make sure to include words that align with that in the headline. Sort of a tip, if you don't select a headline, the LinkedIn will automatically default to the title from your current role. So you need to uncheck the box on your current experience section so that it does not go to that title. Because a lot of times titles don't align with what you want to do next, and you're missing out on an opportunity to include, you get 120 characters on LinkedIn, so that allows you to put a lot of keywords that'll help you out and help you show up high on searches. The third section that to me is probably the most critical is that summary section. Think of the summary section like that intro paragraph on a news story. When you're reading the news, when you're skimming the news, I should say, you don't go and jump into an article and read it in its entirety. Instead, you're going to read the headline and then that paragraph that follows, that lead paragraph. Imagine if the story was skipping that section. Would you ever read the article? I know I would not. Most people don't. That's sort of a journalism 101 lesson. So given that people read LinkedIn the same way you and I read the news, including that summary section is the way to tell the reader what your story is about. And if you don't hook the reader with a summary section that's pretty compelling, chances are slim that they're going to feel compelled to take a deeper dive and go on and read about your experience. Back last spring, LinkedIn changed its user interface. So now, rather than the reader seeing the entire summary section, they actually only see the first 2 lines, which works out to be 225 characters to be exact, on the big screen. Actually, on an iPhone, it's even smaller, or on a mobile device, I should say. But when you're writing your paragraph, you need to make sure that the most impactful part appears at the very first 2 lines. In other words, you can't afford to bury the lead because you won't capture the person's attention. So in terms of keyword packing, I try to make sure that not only do those first 2 lines, include something that's going to make me want to read further, but I really do try to make sure that I can put in as many keywords in there as possible. So those are the main sections that I work to focus on. A couple of other things to consider. LinkedIn has a different tone than resumes. Where the resume is usually a little bit more formal, LinkedIn is absolutely conversational. It is an opportunity for the reader to hear your voice. I've called it a virtual handshake, and that's really what it is. It's how the reader gets a feel for who you are and what you bring to the table. In your summary section, make sure that you sell your value. There's no doubt there's something that you bring to the table professionally speaking that is unique. This is your value proposition or your brand. Spell it out. Why do people hire you for roles? What are you known for? This is what you need to convey to the reader. The other thing that I always make sure to include in the summary section is a summary of skills. Even though there's a second skills section on LinkedIn, including it in a summary section allows the reader to do one-stop shopping. So that information is right there without them needing to go back and look at another part of your LinkedIn. Make it easy on them. Additionally, by including skills in the summary, you're adding more keywords. And the more keywords you get in there, the higher you're going to rank on searches. I also recommend that you include a way for the reader to contact you in the summary section. So include a phone number and an email. Even though, just like the skills section, there is a place on LinkedIn for you to put that in there, go ahead and put it in the summary section. It makes it easier for the reader. And then also that way, if they are not a first connection of yours, they still have a way to reach out to you. What else? In terms of other sections that are important to try to complete, number 1 is the recommendation section. I always say you try to get at least 3 recommendations for each job entry if you can. They can be employers, they can be customers, they can be colleagues, they can be direct reports. Think about, again, what values you're trying to showcase and then have people write about that. So if you are an exceptional salesperson, maybe you want to have some clients and past customers write some reviews. If you are a leader, or positioning yourself as a leader, you might want to have colleagues of you, direct reports write a recommendation or two. The next section is the endorsements, which is the skills section. LinkedIn lets you do a ton. I forget if it's like 30, 40, 50, but it's a lot. These are the ones where you could actually have other people endorse you for them. So that's where when people see a list of skills, they'll actually see a bunch of pictures of people who have said, yes, I support this person, and knowing that they have this skill. When people are reading LinkedIn, looking at your profile, they usually only see the first 3 skills without clicking to read more. Think about that when you're ordering your skills and ask for recommendations for those top 3. It's a great way for the reader to visually see that others concur with you, that you are an expert in whatever areas you've picked. Other areas that you can try to complete are, certification section, volunteer section, project section. Let's see what else. Education, obviously. Look, education, go ahead and take the dates off. It really doesn't matter. In my view, one of the best parts about including where you went to school and what your degree was, or even if you just have coursework and didn't complete a degree, is that once LinkedIn sees the university or the institution where you completed the program or took courses in the program, it will show other people that also went to those schools when you are looking at specific companies. So it's a great way to sort of use the alumni connection, and it really doesn't matter when you attended. It's not really relevant. I think so. That's about it with LinkedIn. It is, again, to me, the best tool on the market to find others and be found, and people are on there. So if you're not, get on there. And if you need help, reach out. Thanks, guys, and I hope you have a great day. Enjoy these last few days of winter. It's in January now, but you might be listening to this later on in the year, so hopefully it's getting warm soon. Take care.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's skim online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.